Welcome students, welcome to CHSD St. Teresa's Autonomous College LMS. I am Dr. Indira from the Department of Zoology. So today's lesson is on production and propagation of nerve impulse. In the last lesson we studied about the structure of neuron and two different types of neurons. They are medullated or myelin covered neuron and non-medullated neuron. So now coming to the production and propagation of nerve impulse. Introduction. The nervous system brings coordination between external environment and internal organs. So an organism can act effectively. That means here I am teaching a lesson. You are listening. That means I am is the external environment and your organs, that is the auditory organs, and your brain are the internal organs. So here there is a coordination between the external environment and internal organs in your body. So you're an organism, you can act effectively by listening this lesson. Nerve impulse. It may be defined as electrical, chemical changes occurring in the membrane of a nerve fiber. So it is produced by a stimulus at one end and carried along the nerve fiber to its other end. And there is one more definition, that is wave of electrical depolarization and repolarization along a nerve fiber. Here, what is stimulus? It may be mechanical or chemical or electrical. So electrical means the flow of electrons, and chemicals, there are so many number of chemicals we are using, and also the mechanical stimuli. Conduction of a nerve impulse. When a nerve fiber, that is the sensory nerve, is stimulated, the stimulus is changed into an impulse. This impulse passes along the nerve fiber. It is called as conduction of impulse. And before going to this topic, we have to know about what are sense organs, sensory nerve, and what are motor nerve. The sensory nerve starts from the sense organs like touch receptors, auditory organs, eyes, nose, etc. All these are sense organs. So they are started from these sense organs and ends in the brain. So they are taking up the impulses from the sensory organs to the brain. The motor neurons means these neurons started from the brain to the effector organs. Effector organs are muscles. That means based on the impulse received by the brain, we are acting accordingly. That is, now I am teaching this lesson, you are listening. So your brain act accordingly based on this information received by the brain. That means you are learning. Okay. Next, sequence of events. There are 4 different kinds of events that are taking place during the conduction. One is stimulation, the second one is excitation, the third one is conduction, then response. There are 3 different kinds of conductions. One is orthodromic, antidromic, two-way conduction. First one is orthodromic. The flow of impulse is unidirectional. Antidromic means the flow in reverse direction. Two-way conduction means carried in both the directions, unidirectional in one way and in the reverse manner. There are 4 types of impulse conductions taking place in our body. They are conduction of impulse through non-myelinated nerve or non-medullary nerve, conduction of impulse through myelinated nerve and through the synapse. That means synapse means from one neuron to the other neuron. In between these two neurons, the junction is called as synapse. The conduction of impulse through neuromuscular junction. That means all our nerves ends in different kinds of muscles. So the nerve sends this impulse to the muscle through neuromuscular junction. So now coming to the lesson, production and propagation of nerve impulse through non-myelinated nerve. That is, the axon is not at all covered by myelin sheath. So here in general, the nerve cell is functionally divisible into three regions. One is generator region, confined to dendrites, cyton and collaterals. Cyton means the neuron cell or the soma of the neuron. Then conductile region means it is confined to the axon. That means the impulse is transmitted along the length of axon, so it is named as conductile region. Then transmission region, it comprises nerve endings like teledendrites. The teledendrites transmits this impulse to the next neuron. Then, so in this process, the first one is origin of resting potential. That means whenever a nerve fiber is at rest, when it is not carrying any of the impulse, the outside of the fiber is positively charged due to the presence of Na plus ions, and inner side of the fiber is negatively charged, even though it contains K plus ions inside the fiber. So this is because of the presence of Cl minus ions and a variety of large organic anions like acetate, pyruvate, lactate, etc. And here this is the difference in electrical potential on the two sides of the nerve fiber is called as resting potential. It mainly depends on the physico-chemical equilibrium condition, that is called as Donan equilibrium. That means due to the movement of Na plus, K plus, Cl minus ions. So here you can see the nerve fiber. So this is the wall of the nerve fiber. This is the first wall and the second wall. This is the axon. So here you can find the Cl minus ions present inside of the membrane. So inside of the membrane is negatively charged, and outside of the membrane is positively charged because of the presence of more Na plus ions. So this is the resting potential. Resting potential. Now comes depolarization. After that, repolarization. So here you can find the action potential. That means here along the length of the axon, so this is the resting potential. Now whenever an impulse is received by the axon or stimulus is received by an axon, the electrical charges difference or the moving takes place. That means Na plus ions moved in and Cl minus ions moved out, so that the outside of the membrane is, here you can find the outside of the membrane is negatively charged, inside of the membrane is positively charged. So this is called as depolarized part, depolarization. That means it is the conduction is comparable with the lightning of a firecracker or a matchstick. The stimulus or impulse or depolarization is equivalent to the light, and here this is the resting potential, that is not in the burning part. So this is not at all burning, so only this much part is a burning part. So with the reversibility in the ions, that is Na plus inside, Cl minus outside. Here the resting potential outside Na plus, inside Cl minus ions. So this is resting potential, and here it is a depolarization. Now the repolarization takes place. So here this is the repolarized part, and this one is a resting potential. Now comes repolarization. Repolarization means what? Here this part is the depolarized part, inside positively charged, outside negatively charged. So whenever this impulse is transmitted to the next step, here the other part of the axon becomes again it takes up the charges as it is. That means the outside negative, outside positively charged, inside negatively charged. So this part is named as a repolarized part. Repolarization. This is a repolarization. This is a depolarization. And here this one is the resting potential. So you can find resting potential here. You can find the resting potential here, and this is a depolarized part. This one is a repolarized part. That means the conduction is a wave of depolarized part and repolarization. So that is called as impulse transmission. So action potential. In this diagram also you can clearly observe. This is the nerve cell. This one is the axon fiber. Axon fiber. So here the impulse is transmitted. It's a part of the axon part. Axon. So here this is the resting potential. This red colored one, the colored portion is the action potential or depolarized part. So here where the negative charges present outside, positively charged Na plus ions rushes in, and here this is a repolarized part. So this repolarized part is having negatively charged ions inside, positively charged ions outside. So it is just like the resting potential. So here it is moving bit by bit. So it is moving bit by bit. So it can be comparable with the lightning of a firecracker. So the fire or the light is moving bit by bit along the length of the firecracker or matchstick. So here also the conduction takes place like this. Here is the resting potential, here is the depolarized part, here is the repolarized part, repolarized part. Then a recording of action potential. So here this is done by a tonometer. So in the recording of action potential, several components are seen. So in this when electrical stimulus is applied, the spike potential is the initial potential. So here this is the initial potential, and again it is the other things. The sharp rise and fall in the potential is called as spike potential. The reversal of polarity is overshot and followed by negative after potential, a part of the action potential just before it reaches the resting level. The part of the curve that falls below the resting potential is positive after potential. So you can see the simple diagram here. This is the depolarized part, the spike potential here, and repolarized part, and here it is after potential, that is after action potential, it is followed by after potential. So this is the normal potential, that is the threshold. So this is K plus and Na plus ions moving. The nerve impulse and firecracker. The whole conduction can be compared to the ignition of a firecracker. When a burning matchstick is applied to the crack, a spark is generated. The spark passes along the string and reaches to the other end. The spark can pass through only once. ఒకసారి వెళ్తుంది. But in the nerve fiber, the impulse can be passed repeatedly along the nerve fiber. It receives so many impulses. So here also you can find the action potential. So here this is the depolarized part, this is the resting potential. So here is the resting potential, depolarized part, and this one is a repolarized part. Nerve impulse and electric current. It resembles electric current. It travels at a slower rate of 1 to 300 meters per second, whereas the electric current travels at a rate of 2,97,600 kilometers per second. Electric current results from the movement of electrons along a wire. Nerve impulse is produced by the movement of positive and negative ions along the fiber. The second one is propagation of nerve impulse in myelinated nerve fiber. That means the axon is completely covered by a myelin sheath. So here the myelin sheath acts as a effective insulator, but this insulation is broken at the nodes of Ranvier. At this place the myelin sheath is absent. The action potential flows from one node over the myelin sheath to the next node. That means the charges jump from one node to the other. This type of propagation is also called as saltatory propagation, in which the information passes by jumping or skipping from one node to the other instead of traveling along the membrane. So the propagation increases the speed of impulse transmission because only the membrane at nodes undergoes depolarization. As a result, impulse transmission is 20 times faster than the normal impulse transmission. So here this is the saltatory conduction, this one is the axon, so this is the myelin sheath. So here this is the nodes of Ranvier. At this nodes of Ranvier there is no myelin sheath, because the myelin sheath is an excellent insulator over the axon. So the action potential or depolarization takes place in this part only. So it can move over or jumps over the myelin sheath and reaches the second rod of Ranvier. So the impulse conduction is very fast. It is 20 times more than the non-myelinated nerve fiber. So here also you can see the node of Ranvier. It is jumped over the myelin sheath like this. So it is also called as saltatory propagation. Thank you.